This is, am I the astronaut for telling my mother-in-law to take her damn cookies and get out of my house? My twin daughters are both 18 and wrote the SAT last month. The results came back yesterday. One of my daughters, Laura, did very well. She got a 1540 and is very proud, as she should be. Her sister, Emily, didn't do so well. She got somewhere in the low 1300s, and I know that this is still not a bad score at all. But she worked very hard for the test and was really disappointed with her score. She's always struggled more with schoolwork than her sister, who does better without having to try quite as hard. Not to minimize her effort, Laura does work hard as well, but it comes a bit easier for her. My mother-in-law has always favored Laura, mostly because she does better in school. She won't show it very obviously, but in little ways. For example, she makes them a birthday cake most years and always writes Laura's name bigger and first. Okay, you get this, Grandma. Emily resents this a bit, but doesn't mind too much, as they rarely see their grandma. Only Laura regularly video calls her with my husband. My mother-in-law called yesterday to ask the girls how they did. Emily said that she didn't want to talk to her. She told me, not mother-in-law, so I gave the phone to Laura. Laura said her score, and her grandma congratulated her excitedly. My mother-in-law then asked Laura how Emily did. Laura said Emily did all right. When I got the phone back, my mother-in-law asked me if she should come visit tomorrow and congratulate Laura. I said, let me check quickly if anything else is happening tomorrow, and I asked Emily if her grandma could come over to celebrate their results. Emily said that was fine, so I told my mother-in-law she should come. My husband was at work when she came over. She brought a box of cookies and gave it to Laura, saying she was proud. Emily was standing there too and looked hurt. I asked if she had brought anything for Emily. She laughed a little and said, not this time, but she'll make even better cookies when Emily does her resit. No one told her she was resitting. My mother-in-law just assumed. Emily went upstairs, and I think she was crying. So I told my mother-in-law very sharply that she can take her damn cookies and get out. She was shocked and angry, but she left. Laura is also upset because she says she earned it, and I'm ruining her relationship with her grandma. My husband says I had no right. Am I the astronaut? Here's some top comments and OP's response. Not for this post subject. You stood up for Emily against her cruel grandmother. Laura is angry because she demands her golden child status. Both grandmother and Laura told Emily loud and clear that she is not good enough. But you have been silent all these years, letting your mother-in-law diminish and degrade Emily. She spent her entire life knowing, not thinking, knowing that she is less than her sister. At this point, you can't undo this. No matter what she accomplishes, she will always feel less than. Both you and your husband are solely responsible for this. It's not about what her grandmother did to her. It's about what her parents allowed her grandmother to do to her. Being mistreated is painful. Being mistreated while your parents sit silently by is devastating. OP's response. What do you think I should do? They have seen their grandma maybe once a year for a few days. The birthday cakes are hurtful, but I always made my own cakes for each of them separately. I couldn't stop Laura from talking to her grandmother. I spoke to my mother-in-law, but she said she is simply being honest because school is very important. She immigrated to the U.S. when my husband was in high school, and she has very strong ideas about how to succeed in the world. I told her she can't treat Emily unfairly, and she said she is not. I couldn't change her mind, so I just stopped letting her come over more often. For example, the holidays. My husband was upset but agreed that it would be impossible to convince his mother to act differently, and so if I was sure that this was hurting Emily, she doesn't have to visit. I don't know what I could have done differently, but that is not important. What do you think I should do differently now? And ladies and gentlemen, to give us some feedback on this, Candy Thunder.
I think that as a parent, I feel it was her job to protect her kids, and she did not. She didn't protect one of her kids, and she let this happen for years. And the dad is just as guilty as the mother-in-law because he defended the mother-in-law in this situation. So no, she's not the asshole in this instance, like in this exact situation, but she is the asshole to her kids, to Emily. Sorry, not her kids. They're twins, and she let this be something that's going to divide them probably for the rest of their lives. They could have had a bond as sisters, but instead she let this mother-in-law and her husband by proxy pit them against each other and make it a competition instead of making it about being sisters, about being family, about supporting one another. And man, I would have put a stop to this the first time the cake came over and the name was bigger than they're twins. I mean, like she knew what she was doing, and I don't know why she latched on to Laura specifically, but man, F that freaking mother-in-law.
Grades. I mean, that's what OP said. OP said she's naturally favored her because she does better in school. I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah. They're different people. Yes, they're twins, but they're not the exact same. They're not going to think the same way. They're not going to perform the same way. My brother is amazing on tests. Like, he can go in without studying and nail the test. I have to study so hard that it hurts my brain in order to make that same grade. But my mom never in any way, shape, or form diminished how I performed versus how my brother performed. Like, she celebrated us the same. And I just, as a mom, I could never allow this to happen where Kieran, if she didn't perform as Ava did, that I would say that I would never celebrate that differently.
Her method of trying to defend or stop this was to limit the frequency with which grandma visited. That did not limit the severity of the actions. So this was she let her visit less often. It should have been if you pull this shit, you will not be here, period.
Exactly.
If you want to see this family, if you want to have a relationship with these girls, plural, you will treat them equally.
She did a soft stop instead of a hard stop.
And it wasn't even a,
she didn't do,
she turned it down to a drip.
Yes.
Instead of turning that faucet off completely, which didn't stop the hurt. It just made it less frequent. And it didn't do anything to change mother-in-law's behavior at all. It just made it less frequent. And that was all.
And she, where did it say? Her husband said that she had no right to tell his mom to leave. And she had every damn right to tell his mom to get the hell out of the house for what she did.
There's a lot of this, equal, if not more, lies with him.
I agree. The husband is more at fault than the mom is, because at least she eventually stood up and said something. But this top comment is right. The damage is done. I mean, Laura has been seated as the golden child, and Emily will never be good enough. And the grandmother is the most at fault, but the dad's up there, and so is the mom. And Laura is too. I know she's a kid, but she knows what's going on because she got upset that she wasn't celebrated as the golden child.
It's rough. Are you correcting spelling in the document?
I did.
I just think it just bugged the hell out of me.
I said "gur" instead of "her."
I think, parents are definitely to blame here. And OP's other point was I understand that it doesn't matter what I've done. What do I need to do now?
Right.
So what should she do now to start fixing this?
Man, I don't even know. I've never been in this situation to try to fix this, but I would start with my husband, and I would start with Laura and try to get Laura to understand what's happening. While it seems to her that she didn't get what she thought she was going to get from grandma, she has to understand that she's getting it while spiting her sister.
Yeah. Well, and that comes down to, I think, a really simple explanation of the kind of person that grandma is. And we talk about this quite a bit. There are people who rise by lifting others, and there are people who like to feel like they've risen by shoving other people down.
There you go.
So grandma is that kind of, we do. We've had it a lot. Grandma is the kind of person who is teaching Laura to shove other people down to make herself feel elevated. And it's not right. It's not the kind of person that Laura wants to become. Starting there and starting with the husband in the same conversation. This needs to be a family meeting. Everybody's got to get on the same page, and they got to get on the same page quick. And until further notice, mother-in-law is banned from this house until she changes her freaking ways.